We're going to be renaming these fractions as percents, and we'll deal with them one at a time. And let's deal firstly with 16 over 9. Okay, so there's a few ways that you can do these kinds of problems, of conversions. One of the things to always remember is that because percent means per 100 or out of 100, at some point in our calculations, we are going to have to be multiplying by 100. Okay, so let's do the first one. Why don't I just start with multiplying 16 over 9 by 100? So times 100. Now we need to, if we're going to be multiplying fractions, they both need to be fractions. So 16 over 9 is a fraction, 100 or any whole number as a fraction is over 1. Okay, so what does that give us? So numerator times numerator, so that's going to be 1600. And this one here, 9 times 1 is 9. Nearly there. The last step really is to carry out this equation here, which is 1600 divided by 9, because this fraction bar means divided by. So let's do that. Here's how that looks. So 1600 divided by 9. Now I'm going to put in a decimal point and let's say 2 extra zeros just in case I need them. I probably will. So let's see how we go. 9 into 1, that's not going to happen. That's a 0. So this 1 gets carried over to the next digit to make 16. 9 into 16 goes once, and I have 7 left over. 9 into 70, well, that goes 7 times. 7 nines is 63, so that gives me 7 left over. 9 into 70, that goes 7. 9 sevens are 63. That leaves me with 7 to carry over. I'm up to the decimal point, so put the decimal point in. And this is going to continue forever because it's going to have the same remainder over and over. 9 into 70 goes 7. 63 means there's 7 left over. 9 into 70, and so on and so on. However, that's as far as I really need to go. 177.77. So yeah, you can say that it's 177.77%. You could round off at one decimal place. If you were to round off at one decimal place, it would be 177.8%. And if you wanted to round off to whole numbers, 178%. Kind of makes sense, 178%, because 16 over 9 is an improper fraction. It's not quite double, so it's not 200%. 178% looks reasonable. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to treat it like this. 16 divided by 9. Let's do 16 divided by 9. So 16 divided by 9. Now, I'll put in the decimal point and I'll put in a few zeros because I know I'm going to need them. Okay, so 9 into 1, that doesn't go. It's a 0, carry the 1 over to the 6. 9 into 6 goes once with 7 left over. Okay, I'm up to the decimal point, put it in. 9 into 70 goes 7 with 7 left over. 9 into 70, 7, 7 left over. 9 into 70, 7, okay, whatever. Let's stop there. I now have 1.777. Now I said that every time you're going to have to multiply by 100, so let's multiply it by 100. And what that means is this decimal point effectively gets shifted over 2 place values because there are 2 zeros in 100, and so now it becomes 17. Remember, it goes here, 7.7%, or rounded off to 178%. So same thing. And there's one other way, kind of a simple way, and that's to use a calculator. So 16 divided by 9% equals, and we have the same result, 177.77 recurring, on and on and on. Oh, and you know what? While we're at it, let's use the calculator to calculate 5 divided by 13 as a percent. So let's do that. 5 divided by 13% equals, okay, 38.46. 38.46%. So that's what the answer is going to be. And let's prove it by using these other methods of calculation. So one of the ways that we can do it is, say, 5 over 13. We know it's always going to be multiplied by 100 at some point. So let's start off with multiplying by 100. 100 over 1, because we have to convert the whole number into a fraction. And any whole number as a fraction is over 1. That's why 100 becomes 100 over 1. 5 times 100 is 500. And 13 times 1 is 13. Right. So now we can do this equation here, 500 divided by 13. So let's do it here. 500 divided by 13. And I'll put in a decimal point, and I'll put in a few zeros to help me out a bit later. So 13 into 5, that's not going to happen. So it's a 0. The 5 gets carried to the next digit, which is a 0. 13 going into 50. So that's going to be 3. Now that's going to be 39. So how many to carry over? 11. So 13 into 110. And that is 8. And 8 times 13 is 104. So that gives me 6 left over to make a 60. I'm up to the decimal point, so put my decimal point in there. 13 into 60, that goes 4. 4 times 13 is 52, which gives me 8 left over. And 13 into 80 goes 6, and we'll stop there. Now, if you have a look here, you can see that, yes, I have the same answer here, 38.46%. Okay, and there is one other way that I've been showing you, and that is to, you know what, let's just start off with 5 divided by 13. Let's just do that, and then multiply by 100. So it goes 5 divided by 13, decimal point, 1, 2, 3. I'll put in the 4 zeros because I know I'm going to need quite a few. 13 into 5, that's not going to happen. That's a 0. Carry that over to the next digit. I'm up to the decimal point, put it in. 13 into 50, well, that goes 3 times and gives me 11 left over. 13 into 110 is 8, gives me 6 left over. 13 into 60 goes 4, and that gives me 8 left over. 13 into 80 goes 6, and so on and so on. That's as far as I need to go. Multiply 0.3846 by 100. Simple job, really. There are 2 zeros in 100, so this decimal point gets moved to the right twice. And here becomes the new location of the decimal point. So I have 38.46%. And hey presto, it's exactly the same as what I had over here for both of the other methods of calculation.